So you've heard about the importance of non-financial metrics and this management practice of ecosystem shaping. The question that we're going to talk about now is how we are going to use all these metrics in the day-to-day course of action in the business. And the answer is we want to use the language of accounting to talk about those economics of mutuality issues in the heart of the business. The key insight is that to be powerful, a new management approach needs to be connected to the P&L. The P&L is the universal language for performance measurement. It is controllable, it is auditable. It is also related to incentives and bonuses. If we manage to change the construction of the P&L, we can change the perspective, the decisions, and the performance. Now, when we're talking about the P&L, we need to be clear there is not only one P&L in the business. In fact, we have two different types of P&L. And if we look at the bottom of this page to start with, there's the external P&L, the official P&L that public companies issue and release and publish and file once a year or once a quarter. So that P&L is built according to international accounting standards, US GAAP in the United States, IFRS in other parts of the world. And those accounting standards are going to evolve ultimately, but not fast. It will take a long time before these accounting standards evolve to take into account these external capital issues. What we think we can change now, and that's the upper part on this page, is the internal management accounts that we use in the day-to-day in the business to measure and report performance. This P&L is much more flexible. Every business designs an internal management account set of reporting, which is to some extent tailored to their own operations and actually describe the way they want to really drive the business and drive decisions. This P&L is the P&L that in the case of Mars, we report every 4 weeks, every period, and we compare to the operating plan target. And that's the P&L that actually measures success against plan with an impact on variable pay. And because this internal P&L is tailor-made, it's slightly different. It's not as constrained as the external P&L. It's not a crazy idea to say that maybe we can make a little bit of innovation and maybe change the way we present this internal management account to drive decisions differently. And it's difficult if you think about, really this challenge of, can we create this connection between, on one side, those, economics of mutuality issues that are about external, human, social, natural capitals, and create a connection between this and the P&L, when if you really think about it, you see that it's actually a long list of problems. It's very difficult to do. Think about the mindset of accounting. Accounting is fundamentally focused on the inside of the business. It's focused on what the business owns, the assets, and what the business owes to someone else, the liabilities. It's focused on trying to draw an exhaustive list of these assets and liabilities as exactly as possible. Everything is expressed in dollar terms, in monetary value. So that's the world of accounting. On the other side, if you think about economics of mutuality, if you think about the human, social, natural capitals, it's actually pretty much the opposite. So we are talking about something which is outside. It doesn't belong to anybody. But everybody has access to it. It's a shared resource. It's made of things which are, by essence, subjective and contextual. And if you think about drawing an exhaustive list of the interdependencies between your business and your environment, well, you will never be able to make it really exhaustive because it's limitless. So the best you can do if you think about listing your top issues or impacting social, human, natural capitals, the best you can do is to maybe define the top 3 top issues. You will never be able to be exhaustive. Finally, clearly, we are not going to suggest that we can put a price tag on human, social, and natural capitals, because we can't and because we don't want to do it. It would be highly unethical to assign a dollar value to those issues, and of course that's not the road we're taking. Now the good news is, with all the work we've been doing in the past few months, we've found very interesting sources of inspiration telling us that there can be a solution to overcome those challenges. The first one at the top of this page is coming from the academic research and the work done by Colin Mayer and Richard Barker from Oxford. So that's the concept of the sustainable P&L. The big idea here is to say that the P&L, as we see it normally, is not complete in the case of businesses that actually have a negative impact on the natural environment. If your business is actually, in the normal course of action, causing a form of pollution to the environment or a depletion of natural resource, and if you don't pay for it, actually your P&L is not complete. You don't see the cost in your P&L, you continue having a negative impact on the environment until the moment where you can't do business anymore because there is no resource anymore. So that's actually a very dangerous situation. And this concept of sustainable P&L is saying that you can extend your P&L to include the cost of these natural resources that you are consuming, even if you're not paying for it. That's actually a hypothetical replenishment cost that can be added to your P&L to show the true profitability that can be sustained over time. So that's one source of inspiration, which is already very interesting. The other one is actually coming from our observation of the business as we do today. I'm going to use few examples here. There are situations where using just basic normal accounting standards, situations where you may be creating an intangible asset out of normal resources. In that case, the cost that you're spending to create this future intangible asset will be considered an investment and will not be considered an expense. And by making this change, you're actually improving the presentation of your operating P&L significantly. One example of this is the example of an IT company which is actually paying engineers salaries and benefits to work on the development of a new software. And maybe this software can be sold in the future and become a big stream of revenues. In this case, you may capitalize the cost of development of this software. So the cost that you're paying, the price, the money that you're paying to the engineers developing this software is not seen as an expense in your operating P&L, but an investment in your balance sheet. Same logic for pharmaceutical companies where people are developing R&D solutions to produce new treatments for the future. Another interesting example is what's happening in large companies when they do reorganizations and restructuring. Normally, the cost of doing small changes in the organization goes to the normal P&L as an expense. When you go for a big restructuring project, you're actually creating the future conditions of success for your business. This is about creating a much better situation for your business long term. When these costs are too big, they are actually considered below the line, outside of operating costs. This is the cost of laying off people, shutting down sites or factories, relocating people, and building new systems. If you take those costs below the line, it is not a problem in terms of delivering the annual operating profit target. It's removing this barrier and it's making the restructuring possible. So these are few interesting examples that actually show us that even if we look at the normal accounting today, we can think about treating the cost differently to make things possible. So what is the model that we have in mind for this mutual P&L? Again, we want to go back to this element of ecosystem mapping and this analysis of the key pain point, and from there, we think we can have a short list of really big issues which are connected to natural, social, human interdependencies that the business identifies really are the top issues that have an impact on the external world, but also an impact on the strategy. From this short list of top issues, we think we can have two types of situation. Very much as we said before, there will be one category which is more about capital depletion issue, the right part on this page, and one other type of situation which is about capital creation issue. So let's talk about these two types of issues to let you understand what we have in mind. So to start with the capital depletion issue, that would be a situation where the business actually consumes external resources without knowing, without paying for it. The idea is to internalize the cost of this external resource using the concept of hypothetical replenishment costs. So by showing the costs in your operating P&L, even if it's hypothetical, even if you don't pay for it today, you are creating a new context where everybody in your organization who is concerned with the operating P&L will have an incentive to reduce the damage, to reduce the pollution, or to find a solution to address this issue. Incentive to do less damage. Now, let's talk about the second type of situations, which is on the green side of this page. That's a situation of capital creation initiatives. Very similar to what we do with MAWA in Kenya. It is about a business which is proactively taking an initiative to do something that will do two things. That will do good for the external world in terms of human, natural, social capitals, and also create a new profitable business inside. Usually to do this, you need to start by paying some costs that you wouldn't normally pay for in the normal course of business. But if this initial cost, if this initial on-cost results in the creation of positive external capital, they should be treated as an investment and not as an operating expense. These costs will be removed actually from the operating P&L and considered an investment. So these are the two types of initiatives. If the senior leadership of the business can start again, think about the ecosystem mapping, come with a very short list of very critical pain points, and treat those capital depletion issues and capital creation initiatives this way. Now, change the way we consider the costs in the operating P&L. It will have a very, very big impact because everybody in the organization who is concerned with delivering the operating plan, hitting the earnings target with an impact on the variable pay, will have a dramatically different behaviors towards those initiatives. It will be easier to find a budget. And at the end, this is not about giving a profit relief on the short term. This is not about allowing people to spend more money. This is about removing the tension between the short-term focus on delivering the plan and doing what's right for the long-term strategy of the business. Why this is not too difficult to do? Why companies may like this? Well, the first point here is we are not proposing to change too much at a time. This change is actually quite modest. It's actually proposing to change the presentation of the internal management accounts. It will not cause significant reconciliation issues with the official P&L. It doesn't require any big changes of systems and ERP and whatever. And we know we already have the skills to do that because simply when we are actually accounting for the one-time cost of restructuring, this is already what we do today. We do have the capabilities to do that. More importantly, this is about removing the tension in the business and creating a stronger alignment between the short-term and the long term, and a stronger alignment between the various components of the business. Also, importantly, we are not suggesting here to create a constraint for management. We are actually creating a tool for the leadership. There will be no obligation to force the business to disclose issues that we don't want to disclose. There will be an opportunity for the senior leadership to choose the topics, those topics that are equally important for the world and for the long-term strategy of the business. We will have the opportunity to go into more details when we see each other in Oxford to talk about the nuts and bolts and some technical elements. So we hope this piece was useful to you, and we are looking forward to continuing the dialogue when we see each other in Oxford. Thank you.